I got the Kinderbeisslach in my bank account, which, for those of you who are not familiar with, living in a social welfare system. Because I have 2 children, and because I'm resident here, the government very kindly, quarterly, contributes money to their upkeep. So but honestly, the idea, something that I've been writing about, exploring lately, is as an American living, Americans have such a skewed understanding of this kind of socioeconomic system, this marriage of capitalism and social welfare. And to me, it's continually bewildering, but also there's a lot more to it. Americans, right now in the debate with Obama and his bailout plans and so on, the Americans are, the opposition is throwing the word socialism like a bomb into the conversation. That's not what this system is, and what it is and what its roots are, which go back into the Middle Ages, really, is a thing that's I just find endlessly fascinating.
Is there anything, we're not allowed to talk about the crisis, is there anything we can make a distillation of what he says to what we can learn from how the Americans today look at?
Well, I think if you listen carefully to President Obama's advisors, I think one thing they understand very clearly is that this idea that if you make the rich even richer, it will trickle down to the rest of society is now been proven totally wrong. Bob Wright was saying the other day that 20 years ago or 15 years ago, 1% of the richest 1% of the United States had about 8% of GDP. Now, the richest 1% have about a quarter of the GDP. And these people aren't spending that money. If you have so much money, if you have so much money, at some point you stop spending it. You stop putting it in the economy. And if you have a fairer distribution of income, and you make sure that the middle classes have more money, instead of concentrating everything at the highest level or at the richest level, it makes economic sense, not just social sense, it makes economic sense. Now this economic reality, which is not an ideological approach, simple economics, might change the American system towards a more social-oriented market economic system that we have here in Europe. So these are going to be extremely exciting times.
That's what I find very interesting, but the big challenge, I think, looking at it as an American and looking at the debate that's going on in the US now, is labels. Just the idea of social welfare, putting those 2 words together in America, it raises people's hackles. So how to and someone I asked about this recently said to me that Americans are hampered by their notion of freedom. That something will, that X, whatever X might be, might deprive them of certain freedoms. So, I think there's a lot of education that has to, there are a lot of misperceptions that have to be explored.
I understand, but at the same time, if you look at the last 10 or 15 years, where the previous president always said, we're doing so well, the economy's doing so well, we're in a boom, everything's going well, ordinary people, your average American, only got less and less. Poverty is not something that happened now with a crisis, or the trouble of the middle-income people or people with 2 jobs. That's not something that started this year or last year. So I think there is a strong, in my view, but I shouldn't be so arrogant as to assume anything about the United States, but I suppose there should be a strong constituency for people saying, hey, we need to make sure that people doing their job and working hard should be paid in a decent way. Perhaps we should look at having less taxation for them and more taxation at the top. I think economically that would make perfect sense.
Yeah, I think it has to be new labels have to be created, and what has to be made clear is the American approach has higher highs, but it also has lower lows. And if you want to continue to be the world's dominant economy, that's kind of